Welcome everyone to another mod spotlight, and today we're gonna have a look at the Witchery mod by Emoniph on the Minecraft forums. This mod aims to allow the player to explore the magical art of witchcraft, an exciting topic, so let's not waste any more time and get right into it. To get ourselves started, we're going to make a witch's oven, which can be used just like a normal furnace but has the potential to be upgraded and contains some special recipes that we're going to require. In order to make the witch's oven properly, we must prepare a few more materials. First, we want to make a bunch of soft clay jars, which we burn in the normal furnace to make usable. Next up, we want to create some mutandis for ourselves, for which we need to go through several stages. Breaking tall grass will occasionally yield us some mandrake seeds, which we want to grow and harvest in order to acquire the mandrake root. Furthermore, we want to burn saplings in normal furnaces to acquire the wooden ash, and finally we want to burn a spruce sapling within the witch's oven using one of those empty jars from before to get the last ingredient, the hint of rebirth. Now that we have our mutandis production, we can start mutating plants into different plants which we cannot otherwise acquire. The plant we're after at the moment is the Spanish moss, which we need to harvest using shears. With the newly acquired Spanish moss, we should now be able to make some puppets. To make a puppet, we're first going to need a basic doll before we infuse it with certain magic and link it to a living being. Applying the desired effects to a doll is as easy as crafting it with certain resources. Once infused, we want to link it to a living being, which we can with the taglock kit. Use it on the person itself or in a bed in which they slept. Now you only have to craft your infused doll with the used taglock kit and the link will be established. In Witchery there are tons of magical effects to apply to your dolls, some of them protecting you, others to deal damage. Note that you don't necessarily need to take the puppet with you. Instead you may build yourself a puppet shelf where your puppets may reside, providing you with the effects and benefits you intended them to have, even across other dimensions. Next step in getting started with this mod, we want to grow ourselves some Rowan Trees, also acquired through using the mutandis on other planted saplings in order to obtain the Rowan sapling. You also want to burn a bunch of Rowan saplings within the oven, which will yield you a random chance of gaining a whiff of magic as well, which is used in many recipes within the mod. Now we're ready to build ourselves an altar. The altar will concentrate the magic present in the environment into usable sources of power. The altar takes its power from Mother Nature, i.e. the blocks in its immediate surroundings. The altar is a multi-block structure and needs to be created in a 2x3 pattern. You may then activate it by right-clicking it, which will pop up a GUI showing how much power the altar has collected, how much it can collect, and its current recharge rate. The maximum amount of blocks that can be stored is determined by the blocks around the altar. Blocks like dirt, grass, trees and plants all contribute to the amount, where for instance sand and stone do not. An altar has a range of about 16 blocks, thus any devices you use in conjunction with the altar, such as the distilleries and the kettles, will have to be within this range. It is also possible to upgrade your altar for some crazier witchery by placing certain items on it, boosting its capabilities in various ways, which you can find nicely listed on the website. Next up, let's have a look at the distillery. You'll need this procedure in order to get certain magic ingredients. It is powered using energy from a nearby altar. Up to 2 ingredients are distilled together and will result in up to 4 resources. For some of the ingredients you'll have to supply clay jars to capture them. You'll find a complete list of usable recipes within the distillery by crafting yourself the book Witchcraft Distilling. Now that we have our distillery, we should be able to acquire gypsum through distilling foul fume with quicklime. Foul fume has a small chance of dropping when burning food items, logs or jungle saplings in an oven, and the quicklime you'll get by simply placing wooden ash into a crafting grip by itself. Using the gypsum, we shall now make some ritual chalk and golden chalk. These chalks are used to draw ritual circles needed to perform some awesome rites. To know more about these rituals, we want to craft ourselves another book called Witchcraft Circle Magic. With this book you will know everything about the rites, their foci items, power and circles needed to be successful with the procedure. Of course, with a witchcraft mod there must also be a kettle item used to make witches' brews and infusions. For proper functioning, the kettle needs to be placed on top of a fire and filled with a water bucket. You will then throw in the respective ingredients and may pick up the liquid using an empty bottle to store it. Some recipes will even require magical energy from a nearby altar. If any of the above factors are not set, the brew might be ruined and you'll be forced to start over. As a little side note, the kettle may be automated using Buildcraft pipes or Thorncraft golems, and of course there's also a book about this topic called Witchcraft, Brews and Infusions, where you'll learn everything you can do with the kettle. A whole other topic in Witchery are the Dreamcatchers. In order to make them, you'll have to visit the spirit world first, which you can only get to in a dream state, for instance using a brew of sleeping. When still unfamiliar with the spirit world, you'll most likely to encounter a nightmare instead of a dream. The spirit world is a whole alternative reality and the only source of certain resources such as wispy cotton to be treated on a spinning wheel, which of course are required to make the dream weavers. Once in the spirit world, you will experience either a dream or a nightmare, and you will be stripped of your items with a few exceptions. You can increase the chance of a dream occurring using a dream weaver of nightmares nearby your bed before going to sleep. Within a nightmare, you will be chased by nightmares. They are fast and deadly and will spawn another as soon as the first one is killed. You will have to find a way to run from them or kill them off for the mellifluous hunger resource used in certain recipes. As a little tip to protect yourself from the worst effects of a nightmare, you may carry around a charm of fanciful thoughts. In order to wake up and return from the spirit world, you may simply die within the dream or nightmare. A more civilized way to use is an Icy Needle, which is one of the few items you may take over from the real world to the dream world. Additionally, killing the sleeping body of a witch will force them to leave the spirit world as well. Within the spirit world, you can create spirit portals, which will allow you, after performing a rite of manifestation, to enter the real world for a short period of time as a ghost. You create the portal using a 4x4 structure of snow blocks and igniting it with a flowing spirit, which you can only brew in the spirit world. Finally, you can cause the worst of nightmares, namely a demonic nightmare, using a brew of sleeping near a dreamweaver of nightmare, a flowing spirit pool and a beating demon heart. I will let you experience the results for yourself. However, you will have to acquire a demon heart through either bargaining with a demon or by killing it. Demon hearts may also be used to provide additional power for an altar and can be eaten to acquire temporary demonic superpowers with a few side effects once it wears off. Note that you have to perform a rite of the summoning in order to summon one of these demons and interact with them just like with a villager. Now let's have a look at the dark magic, the necromancy part of the mod. This evil magic allows the player to summon certain minions to aid in battle. First, you'll have to acquire a necromantic stone by performing the rite of necromancy. With the brew of raising, you may then summon your creatures and command them using the stone. The necromantic stone is also the only way to toggle the alluring skull, which is an item that attracts undead creatures, which might come in handy for a mob trap. To get anywhere further with this mod, we need to upgrade our altar, so let's place a candelabra and a filled chalice on top of the altar. Using otherware chalk and infernal chalk, we may now try to perform some of the more complex rituals explained in the book. As you'd suspect, a Witchcraft mod also comes with an enchanted flying broomstick. Crafting such a broom will require a bunch of steps, for which you will find a link in the description to a step-by-step guide by the author of the mod. To fly your broom, just place it on the ground and mount it. You can use shift again to dismount. Note that the player with an owl familiar will find the controls of an enchanted broom much more responsive. Now let's have a look at the infusion process within this mod. To get started, you'll have to hunt down some witches to acquire a witch's hand, which you'll need to focus the immense power of an infused being. You will find all the infusion recipes within the same book as the brewing recipes. Once an infusion has been created, it must be infused into an object or a player. This step requires a rite of infusion as described within the book, but be aware that magical precautions have to be taken before infusing a player, otherwise the ingredients are just going to be wasted on a dead body. So don't forget to create your death protection puppet, which will take the death blow instead of you and will be destroyed in the process. Also in the description you'll find the link to the infusion page of the wiki, where you'll find tons of step-by-step guides for the individual infusions. Also take into consideration that infusions will draw their magical energy from the rite of infusion, and once depleted you'll have to perform the rite of charging to make them work again. Next up, we also have been given some attractive garments, such as hats, robes and slippers, which will grant you certain advantages while performing witchery activities and other neat effects. Furthermore, there's the Mystic Branch, which will allow witches and warlocks to successfully infuse themselves, to draw symbols into the air and produce certain magical effects. Each effect will drain some of the infused power, and only certain symbols may be accessible depending on which type of infusion the player has. To draw a symbol, press the right mouse button and move the mouse around in specific directions. If a pattern is recognized, you will be notified, and on releasing the mouse button you will cast the spell. You'll also find a link in the description to a list of the different possible gestures. And there's much more. For instance, you could take on some boss fights. You can create crystal balls to predict the future, the Arthana to increase chances of certain drops such as the Demon's Heart or Skulls from Skeleton, the acquisition of Coven Witches that will give you tasks and in return join your group and can be called to help you with battle and rituals. Heck, you can even mutate certain animals and bind them as a familiar, and much, much more. To find out more about this in detail, I recommend you highly to check out the links in the description to find a lot of how to get started and step-by-step guides. The documentation of this mod is very extensive and easy to navigate. Well guys, as you can see, an awesome mod with incredible features and tons of stuff to do. I hope you enjoyed today's mod spotlight. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I'll catch you in the next one. Bye bye.